Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We went to movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained best pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the feeling bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey.
Careful, you idiot! I said across her nose, not up it!
Sorry, sir. I'm doing my best.
Who made that man a gunner?
I did, sir. He's my cousin.
Who is he?
He's an asshole, sir.
I know that. What's his name?
That is his name, sir. Asshole. Major asshole.
And his cousin?
He's an asshole, too, sir. Gunner's mate, first class, Philip Asshole.
How many assholes we got on this ship, anyhow?
Yo!
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
Keep firing, assholes!
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Sent Us podcast, your favorite podcast where two Sweetie sisters talk about their favorite flicks from childhood. I'm Sweetie.
And I'm Sweetie.
And today we're doing a little special something for one of our very special fans.
Yeah, this is dedicated to our pal Markus.
Markus
has been a big fan of the podcast for a long time, I think since the beginning, and has been an avid listener. And a little birdie told me that his favorite movie is the one, the only, Spaceballs. And coincidentally, we had been wanting to do a Mel Brooks movie for quite a long time now. So kind of the forces came together and we decided to do it. And I've never been happier because this movie's so fucking funny. I can't stand it.
It is. We were laughing a lot. There were tears coming out of the eyes.
So good.
I kept meaning to yell at you because you kept taking a bite of food, like when I knew a really funny part was coming up. And I kept wanting to be like, "Why are you doing this to yourself?"
God.
But oh man, so many laughs, so much fun. Just a real classic, you know.
And it's just crazy because, as I told Sweetie before, as we were prepping for this film this afternoon.
And by prep, she means
over G-Chat.
Okay.
It's like, what prep? We do little tete-a-tetes over G-Chat, and when we're working during the day, we don't work together, but we chat all day.
It's not like a serious prep. Just
okay.
It was like one chat line. To me.
Okay.
I don't want them to think we're doing like research with like giant.
We really don't. We're completely spontaneous and improvisational, which is why this podcast is so professional and amazing with no mistakes. Anyway, but Mel Brooks is amazing on countless levels, right? And the one I brought up today was that, like, we watched this as a little kid. This movie came out in 1987. Thought it was hilarious as a child. Not getting, I would say, 75% of the jokes.
I was going to say that exact same percentage.
What?
Wow.
And so the great thing about Mel Brooks is that because they're parodies, most of his movies are parodies of other movies, or many movies parodied in one movie, right? Mm-hmm. So in this particular case, Spaceballs was his take on mostly space films and
mostly
sci-fi kind of stuff, right? And until you see those movies, then it does make it like, you're like in on the joke, but you don't necessarily have to because in general, so funny. Just
yes,
great.
And I mean, Mel Brooks' humor is very silly, and which speaks to children. But there's also something that silliness transcends to still be funny when you're older too.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say I would say definitely silly, but also my favorite kind of comedy, which is clever comedy. So you're talking about puns, you're talking about like, one word, what is that called? Almost like double entendres, like that kind of very almost like clever comedy, which is why I've always loved Mel Brooks. Obviously like huge. He's Jewish, so he talks a lot about being Jewish and as like Judaism and kind of using that as sort of a lot of the butt of like a lot of jokes, as a lot of great Jewish comedians do. And I just fucking love him. And the man is still alive and is fucking just awesome. I love Mel Brooks so much.
Although I feel like I wouldn't deem us Mel Brooks super fans. Really, the
No.
only two movies. I mean, have you seen?
No, and I was
other
going to
ones
say,
besides-
like,
okay.
I really need to go back and see Blazing Saddles. I've seen some of Young Frankenstein. I've never seen Silent Movie. I have seen The Producers. That's fucking hilarious. And then what was the other one? Oh, the
History
Dracula
of
one?
the World. Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so there's a lot. There's a lot we need to see. But Spaceballs and Robin Hood Men in Tights were like our jams.
Our jams. And I think
When-
everyone has their Mel Brooks jams depending on
Yeah.
when you were born and like
Right.
what you
so
were
those
around.
were ours. So this and Robin Hood Men in Tights were just top notch films
Yeah.
for us. So funny, and I feel like most like I know. So this came out in '87, so I was only a year old. So I must have seen it around the same time or before I watched Star Wars.
Exactly. So I wonder what that means for us, being them really like
I'll tell you what it
intertwined.
means. It means a lot of sweetie confusion involving Star Wars, which we'll get into. But we'll talk about that in greater detail in a moment. For now, I think we should all have a rousing session of our favorite segment called
Sweetie synopsis. Yeah.
Sweeties.
Let the Schwartz be with you.
Cool. All right. Lone Star, no last name, right?
No last name. You know, there's a really awesome place called Lone Star Taco that we just went to. Coincidence? I think not.
Do know because we just went to it. You said it. Yes. Yes. Lone Star is a kind of a freelance space hero who travels the galaxy with his companion Barf, who is a Mog, half
I'm a
man,
Mog.
half dog.
I'm a Mog. It's like how he says it like
They,
that. I'm a Mog.
they mostly just lounge around their space Winnebago. But in this case, they have a special assignment. The greater villain of this movie are the Spaceballs, which I guess is a race of humans who reside in Spaceballs City. Wait, is that what it's called? Okay. Run by President Scrooge. What was I? Scrooge?
I thought it was Scrooge
Scrooge.
when I was little and got
See?
really confused with
Lots
the
of
Bill Murray movie
confusion. Lots of confusion.
titled Scrooged.
So Spaceballs is running out of air, and they need to get air from somewhere, so they're going to steal the air from another planet called Planet Druidia. So in order to do this, they're going to kidnap Princess Vespa, who is supposed to be on her honeymoon after just being married, and they're going to use her as ransom to get the code for the airlock, which protects their air. So that's the plan. That's the plan, Stan. However, Princess Vespa decides to make a run for it at the altar because she does not want to marry Prince Valium. So she runs off with her droid, Dot Matrix, and they try to get away. Spaceballs beams them in with the tractor beam, and then the king calls up Lone Star and says, "Hey, my daughter's gonna get kidnapped. You gotta save her. You gotta save her right now." And they're like, "All right, we'll do it for 1 million space bucks." Which
And that's because they have I forgot like what the deal is. They owe Pizza the Hut 1 million space bucks. So they
Well,
weren't trying to
it
make
was-
like
yeah.
was it less than that?
it was
And they
less
were-
than that, and Pizza the Hut was like, "You forgot interest."
Okay,
or
so it was 1 million space bucks. So this like sort of like the gangster, let's say, of the space world, all the galaxies, Pizza the Hut, good name. Is they owe him 1 million space bucks. So they're like, shit, like we're gonna like basically have like what is that, like bounty on our heads if we don't pay,
just like Han Solo.
just like Han Solo in Star Wars. And so then they figure out this deal where they can save this princess for a million space bucks. So it's like, okay, let's do this. Like, let's save her. Even though they're kind of like lazy asses and they like don't want to do anything and they just like sit around their Winnebago and eat like dog biscuits or like whatever's going on there.
Just Mog.
Just Mog.
Barf
the
does
Mog
that.
does. So they come upon Princess Vespa's, which is a cool Mercedes spaceship, very cool, getting dragged into the tractor beam, and they rescue her with all of her luggage and zoom away. And they get away from Spaceballs 1, the giant big ship. And proceed to then run out of gas.
Yes. So they have to make a crash landing on a nearby planet, which is a desert planet, unfortunately. So, of course, before long, they run out of water, and it's very hot, and they almost pass out. But then these little guys come and save them. What are they called?
They don't
Did
name
they have
them
names?
here, but they're what was in Star Wars the Jawas.
Yeah. Except way cuter and not scary, and there's not one
And they
scary
go,
tall
and I will
one.
say this was my favorite part of the movie as a
Oh,
kid,
me too, me
by
too.
far.
Yeah, we would like sing this
Oh
all
my
the
god,
time.
I was obsessed with it
Be like,
because they just go dink 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 dink, and they only talk in dink dinks.
Ding,
So
ding, ding,
even
ding,
when they're not
ding,
singing, they're like
ding,
dink dink
ding,
dink
ding.
dink 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 dink. That's how they talk,
Ding,
and I
ding,
thought
ding,
that was the funniest thing. I thought it was so funny when Lone Star was like, "When do we get to Disneyland?" I don't know, that's like the worst joke of the whole movie, and I thought it was the funniest. I'm
well, that's the
embarrassed.
thing with kids.
I
It's like a
know.
low bar of humor.
Easy sell.
Yeah. Anyway, so they're rescued, turns out, by Yogurt, who is this sage
Fucking love that.
who is like a play on Yoda, and he tells them all about the Schwartz and blah blah blah. It's like the Force, you can move things with it, but you use this ring to do it. So he teaches Lone Star how to do it. They go to bed, but unfortunately Spaceballs catches up with them and then lures the princess outside and kidnaps her. So they get her and they run off or fly off, whatever. You know what I mean. So now they have to go after her again and find her on Spaceball 1. Or no, they take her to Spaceball City. So now they're going to Spaceball City. Right? Yeah.
It's not the ship?
I don't think so. Wait.
No, it's the ship. They're on the ship. Because Dark Helmet takes her, so they're like...
What's
Yeah.
the part where they go to the city?
That's just where President Scroob is.
Okay. So they try to force her father to give them the code by giving Vespa her old nose. He cracks and is like, okay, I'll give it to you. So he gives them the code. They're like, great, sweet. So they put her in a cell. Lone Star and Barf come and rescue her and Dot. They get away again and get back in the Winnebago and then go back to Planet Druidia, where they witness the Spaceball 1 ship transforming into a giant maid with a giant vacuum so it can suck out all the air.
Right. Because they have the code now. So it's like they don't need Vespa. Like, that's fine. So they have the code, and they're going to suck out the air from Druidia. So they're watching this from the Winnebago, and Barf is like, use that ring that Yogurt gave you, like with the Schwartz, to move essentially what is like this little switch attached to the maid, because the settings, it's like a vacuum. Though, is there a reverse setting on a vacuum?
I was just going to say, when I was little, totally also a sweetie confusion.
Yeah.
I always assumed that vacuums had a
Well,
reverse
why?
switch.
There's no reason to build
Right.
a reverse on a
That's why
sucking thing
it's
like
just
that.
for this movie.
Yes,
Nobody wants to blow
exactly.
the air out
Right.
of the vacuum. Please.
That'd be weird. So he uses the power of his Schwartz and clicks the switch into reverse, and it goes all back in Druidia, and the Spaceballs don't know what to do. They're like, oh, this wasn't supposed to happen, blah, blah, blah. So they're basically like useless. Part 2 of this plan was to go onto Spaceball 1 and destroy it. So they fly into the ear, what is now the Mega Maid, and find what is, every spaceship has a self-destruct switch. I don't know, like, what the point of that is, right? Like, why would it have a self-destruct trick? At least in, like, Star Wars,
Yeah.
that was, like, a secret thing that, like, no one really
knew
knew because, well,
flaw.
spoiler alert, you learned from Rogue One that wasn't planned by someone who was actually a rebel. But then, was that planned again for when they rebuild it for Empire Strikes Back?
Return of the Jedi.
There's no self-destruct. They actually...
They do something else. They, like,
Yeah.
take out all of these things that, like,
Yeah.
collapse it in the middle.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
But, yeah, so Lone Star goes to, like, hit that self-destruct button, meets Dark Helmet, who's the villain, and they battle, and then Lone Star outsmarts him by realizing that he's had the Force inside him, the Schwartz inside him this whole time. So he uses it to defeat Dark Helmet, who hits the self-destruct button on his own. So the ship is going to self-destruct in 3 minutes, 4 minutes, something like that. So Lone Star and his crew get out of there, and then the ship self-destructs, explodes. That's the end of the bad guys, sort of. Meanwhile, so Lone Star had this medallion around his neck that had these weird words on it that he didn't understand. And Yogurt, I'm going to keep messing up the names, could translate it. And he hid the meaning of the medallion in a fortune cookie, which they open later in the movie. And it says that Lone Star is actually a prince. Huh, imagine that. So now he's a prince. He can marry Princess Vespa.
Woo!
So he goes back to Druidia, interrupts the wedding in this amazing outfit, which we'll talk about, and they get married, and that's it. Spaceballs land on the Planet of the Apes planet, which is Earth, I think.
Right.
And that's that. And that's the end.
Woohoo! Yeah. Simple plot, kind of brilliant. Keeps it real with obviously a lot of stealing different elements from other movies that have already been. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, I don't know. We just like grew up with this. I don't know when we first saw it. Like, I rented it a lot from the video store. I remember I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah,
I'm
did
sure
we
it was
rent
on
it?
TV.
So we had all the swears in
Yeah.
the one that we watched.
Yeah, I think we
'cause-
used to rent it. This was not one that like. I'm sure they played it on TV a lot, but I think it wouldn't have been. I don't know if it would have been in syndication that much, like so soon after. If we watched this like early '90s, I don't think it would have like been on TV that much. You know what I mean? So I think I really think I rented it. I was kind of obsessed with it, and probably, as Sweetie said, watched it way more than I watched the Star Wars ones. Because for us, I mean, we were really like very little or just born. I was just born when Return of the Jedi came out. So we were like really too soon for the actual Star Wars movies and really only got into them once, as we've spoken about, the kind of re-release happened in the 90s. So really, I think this was our first introduction into that. So very interesting to like have the parodies fed to you first.
Although,
and then
right.
watch the real ones.
But I mean, and our dad explained a lot of why the spoof was funny, which he often did to me for most movies.
Yep.
That I didn't get. But movies like these that reference specific movies within them make me seek out the movies that is parodying.
Oh my God.
Parodying? Parroting?
Parodying.
Okay.
That's really hard to say.
Yeah, I know. That was really hard. They make me seek them out, and I think that's great. And I think that's why I've always been a big fan of spoof movies.
Yeah.
Because I think it does that. It definitely did this for me. The alien scene spoof at the end always made me want to watch Alien, even though it scared me, because that scene scared me in Spaceballs. But I was like, I want to see this movie. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So I did. So like that kind of thing. Just it's a good thing. I like it. I support it.
And I think like that's kind of what's cool about Mel Brooks too, is that I think maybe that's in some ways why he does it, because I think he's been a fan of all these genres and all the movies that he parodies, and that's it's like he, you know, as such a person who's been in Hollywood for like so long as well. So if you read a little bit of the trivia of this one, you find that like Lucasfilm, so George Lucas was like completely aware of this movie. Mel Brooks sent him the screenplay. They were like all about it. George Lucas thought it was like the funniest thing he'd ever seen, like laughed hysterically. You know, they helped them with some of the effects even. So like Lucas, what is it? Light and Magic. What is his effects company? Right?
Yeah.
Lucasfilm? Industrial Light Magic. Helped him like the alien popping out of the stomach scene that is from Alien. They did that. But the only request he had was that they couldn't merchandise any Spaceballs stuff. So that's why there's the giant running joke in the entire movie about merchandising and how there's all like Spaceballs a t-shirt, Spaceballs a placemat, Spaceballs a breakfast cereal, Spaceballs the flamethrower. So they just like kind of carry that on because they couldn't merchandise. So they're like, we're going to make this a joke, which is obviously, again, so fucking brilliant.
Genius.
Love it.
So pretty spectacular cast here.
Yeah, so good.
So we've got, obviously, Mel Brooks plays two parts in this. He plays President Scrooge.
Do you know?
I'm always going to have a hard time saying that.
So Robin Hood Men in Tights, he keeps it to a minimum because he's only like the rabbi in that.
Yes.
Yeah. But do you know in
he's
the
like
other ones, is he minor parts
he's
in
like
that
starring
too?
parts in all the producers.
Yeah.
Silent movie, and he's in the History of the World Part 1. He's in a bunch. It's a bunch of different.
Is he in
things.
Young Frankenstein?
Yeah.
And Blazing Saddles?
I don't know. I haven't seen those ones as much, so I can't recall. But yeah, this one two big parts. So President Scrooge and then Yogurt. Great parts.
Yeah. Oh my God. So
our favorite, Rick Moranis, who I think This is my favorite Rick
Okay,
Moranis
my
role.
first sentence of my notes. Probably my fave Rick Moranis role.
My note, favorite Moranis.
Jesus. Oh my God.
Twins.
Carbon copies.
But he, oh my God, his facial expressions are like the best thing I've ever.
I cannot even. I'm telling you, like Rick Moranis, if you're listening, please start acting again.
Back.
Like you're so good at it. You're so funny in
so
this.
great.
He is like every scene stealer. Let's just say it.
He makes
scene stealer.
I think he makes this movie. I think
yeah.
he's the best part about
It
this
would
movie.
be nothing. This movie would be nothing without Rick Moranis.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
So he plays. We didn't really even go
Right.
into it. So he's the Darth Vader character, Dark Helmet. The great thing about it is that he is pint size and has this giant helmet that he like brings up and down, and whenever it's down, he has like the James Earl Jones like sort of like low voice, and then when he brings it up, he has these funny nerd glasses and his like little whiny voice, and it is a fucking priceless.
And we noticed on this rewatch that his costume is actually like little shorts and then
Tights.
and then like a tie, and it's perfect. But then there's like a part where when they go to the desert, he's like a giant safari helmet and like outfit. Ugh, genius. But all of our favorite parts, I think, have to do with him. So, and we'll talk
For sure.
about all of those. But yeah, for sure, the best part. Also, John Candy is Barf, the Mog. Bill Pullman is Lone Star. Daphne.
First major role for him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was in like
Daphne-
one episode of some like soap opera, and then
Was it Mel Brooks?
oh no, what was it? I like looked at it. It was like a pretty famous one, but yeah, this was his first. He was totally unknown.
Oh, wow, go Bill. And then Daphne Zuniga, what
Zuniga,
is Princess Vespa?
best name. I mean, no one has these for last names. Good for you.
Zellweger,
Damn it.
Zemeckis.
Fuck you.
Yes, so that's and then and Joan Rivers is Dot, the voice of Dot Matrix, the C-3PO thing.
Don't forget Dick Van Patten as
Oh,
yeah.
See, I never
King
knew that.
Roland, and it just reminds me of. So Dick Van Patten is also in. He's in. I think he's in a lot of his Mel Brooks movies, but he's also in Robin Hood Men in Tights. But it always reminds me of the Wayne's World scene when he's doing like the thing with Cassandra. He's like, "Was it Kierkegaard or Dick Van Patten who said?" But it's like he's saying it in
Philosophical.
yeah, in
quote.
Cantonese or whatever, and so he's like Dick Van Patten or like, and so that's the only part that isn't translated.
I don't think I knew that was Dick Van Patten.
Dick Van Patten.
Until just now.
Don't confuse him with Dick Van Dyke.
Right, it gets
Two different Dick
a lot of
Vans.
a lot of dicks out
A
there.
lot of Dutch dicks out there.
Anyways, yeah, that's the cast. Good cast.
Oh, and don't forget, we found a little spoiler.
Old zinger.
Ned Ryerson.
Ned Ryerson.
Hidden role as one of the Spaceballs in a key part, which we'll bring up probably on our favorite scenes.
Yes. So like we said, the main movie we're I'm not going to say the P word. We're spoofing is Star Wars. So these characters are mostly related to Star Wars. Obviously, Lone Star is Han Solo. Barf is Chewbacca. Dark Helmet is Darth Vader. So this is the sweet confusion I was talking about. When I saw Star Wars, I'm pretty sure I kept trying to call Darth Vader Dark Vader. It's just, it's confusing. It's confusing for a child.
Dot C-3PO.
C-3PO, Princess Vespa, Princess Leia, Pizza the Hut, Jabba the Hutt. Yeah, I think those are the main ones. But it's, like we said, parodying Star Wars, but all these other movies are also involved. Plus, it's just silly, so it's just a funny movie. So even if you don't know any of the references, I think you would. I feel like you would still think it was funny.
And it's a good story. And like I think George Lucas said when he was like, "Oh man," he was telling like. Mel Brooks said this was so great. He's like basically said that same thing. He's like, whatever, like this is like a great adventure story. Like this was just a good story in general. And I guess it only took Mel Brooks 6 months to write the script, which is pretty good, I think, in terms of script writing. Yeah. I don't know anything about script writing, but there's a lot of jokes in here and a lot of stuff to connect and sort of make like all these little, everything is. The crazy thing with Mel Brooks movies is that it's like everything is like a little touch of funny, right? Down to the tiniest details of things, which is what like another thing I just love about him. So it's like, I don't even know how you think of that on that level. It's just brilliant.
Yeah. So I feel like this episode's probably just going to be us recounting our favorite moments. So I guess we'll just start. No time like the present. So my first favorite part is when they are trying to shoot Princess Vespa, right? Yeah, and they said, I want to go up her nose. Mm-hmm. But the shot goes like above her.
He goes by like across her
nose, and then it like hits her, right, or something.
Hits the spaceship.
So we get Dark Helmet's like, I said across her nose, not up it. And then the gunner is like, I'm sorry, sir, I'm doing the best I can. And then he like puts up his helmet and he cross eyes. And Dark Helmet's like, who made that man a gunner? And then the guy,
I did, sir.
He's my cousin.
Basically, like, who are those? Who are those men?
Oh yeah,
they're assholes. They're assholes, sir.
Sergeant asshole.
That's major
asshole.
And then he goes, "Oh my God, we're gonna like mess this up, but it's really funny." That's major asshole, sir. And that's his cousin, Philip asshole. It's Philip asshole.
And then Dark
They're
Helmet's
assholes,
like,
sir.
They're assholes. How many assholes we got on this ship? And then all of the Spaceballs behind them are like, yo,
yes,
sir.
Yo.
And then Dark Helmet's like, I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes. And he goes, keep firing, assholes. And puts his helmet down. Oh, it's so great. And then another thing that I didn't totally get, because although you say we rented this, but I'm not totally convinced. I feel like we must have seen it on TV because I don't remember all those swears.
Okay.
Or maybe I didn't know asshole was a swear.
There is quite a bit. And another PG movie that slid by before that PG-13 rating could have all the swears in it. So
yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, that's my first one.
All right.
You go.
I'm going to go with jamming the radar. So they are trying to save Princess Vespa, and they want to like swoop in and get her, but they're like, oh, they're going to see us on our radar. And he's like, no problem. Let's jam the radar. Jamming the radar. So kind of awesome brilliance of Mel Brooks, the sort of play on words I was talking about before. So jamming the radar, they send this giant jar jam to crash into the radar and actually jam the radar. Mm-hmm. So this brings in, and I don't remember this actor's name, but the guy from Police Academy who does like these great, basically like sound effects with his mouth. Brilliant guy. I don't know if he was a comedian or what. Maybe like look that up as I'm speaking this so we can give proper credit where credit's due. But anyway, so he's the radar guy, and he's like, so he's making all the sounds of the radar, and it's just like so brilliant. So he like calls them over. And he does even the sound of like the intercom. I mean, it's just so cool to watch it. It's like the coolest thing. So they come over and they're like, he's like, sir, he's like, I lost the bleeps, the creeps, and the sweeps. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, the bleeps, bleep, 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 the creeps.
No, the creeps is the last one.
Oh,
the bleeps,
the sweeps, and the creeps. Yeah, I can't do it. I am not a sound effects man with my own voice. I hate to tell you. But anyway, so and then Dark Helmet's like, that's not all he's lost. I love his like little asides.
His little sides
so
are the
so then it's like, oh, sir, I think we've been jammed. And like jam starts leaking out of the TV or the radar TV. And Dark Helmet like tastes it. And he's like, raspberry. The only person who would raspberry jam me, Lone Star.
So his name's Michael Winslow.
Michael Winslow, that's it. Awesome dude.
Yeah, so great. Such a good scene. Okay, next is probably the favorite of both of us, I think, is when they switch to ludicrous speed. So the joke here is that in all these sci-fi movies, they're always going to hyperspeed. It's not even light speed.
Yeah.
It's hyperspeed, right?
Yeah.
Hyperspace. But Dark Helmet says like, oh no, light speed's too slow. We need to go to ludicrous speed. And everybody's all upset. And they're like, ludicrous speed? We can't go to ludicrous speed. He's like, do what I say. We're doing it. And so they like prepare the ship to go. And they're like, you might want to like buckle in. He's like, forget that, like it's fine. And then they put it into ludicrous speed, and so it like goes up the levels, like light speed, ridiculous speed, and then ludicrous speed, which is like insanely fast. And Rick Moranis is like flying, like holding on to something, and his legs are flying out behind him.
God, he's like
and
so
he's
tiny.
freaking out.
So
he's so
funny.
teeny. And he's like, oh, my brains are falling out of my feet. Stop this thing.
We can't. We gotta slow down first.
Fuck that.
Stop this right now. So Colonel Sanders pulls the e-brake, which are like, don't ever pull. There's like this big sign. So the thing just like stops. The best scene in the whole movie, you can find this GIF everywhere, and I already posted it on Twitter, is of Dark Helmet like flying through the air and crashing through the front of this ship. And it gets even better because when he gets up, he's like wasted. He basically has like a concussion. His helmet's all flying.
He's basically Louis Tully in Ghostbusters. Yeah. And he's just like so out of it and like all like smoking.
Sir,
okay.
Sir, are you okay?
What? Yeah, I'm fine.
Are we stopped?
Are we stopped?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
What should we do now, sir?
Why don't we take a 5-minute break? Okay. Smoke if you got 'em. And he like passes out. Oh, it's so good. But I also love in that scene when Lone Star is like they're flying at light speed or whatever, and Spaceball 1 like flies over them super fast, and they're going so fast that like the light patterns make like a plaid design. So then Barp is like, "Wow, they've gone to plaid." I just love it.
That's so funny.
So witty.
So witty.
Witty. All right, you're up.
Okay, I think my next one will be the comb the desert scene. So, President Scroob is like, comb the desert. So they've lost the Winnebago that has the princess in it. So they're like off in hyperdrive, and they're way like they don't know where they are. So they like try to find them on radar, and they do have actually a funny way to find them. They watch the video of Spaceballs, the movie. I'll let you do that one. Maybe we should do that first. We're doing it in chronological order.
Yeah. So this one, they're like, I have an idea. We'll watch the movie, Spaceballs, the movie, and find out where they are. So they're like, there's like kind of a running gag in a few of Mel Brooks' movies, but especially this one, where they break the fourth wall like all the time. So the camera's always involved in some gag or whatever. So in this one, they get the Spaceballs VHS and pop it in, and they're kind of rewatching the beginning of the movie. So it's everything we've seen, and they're fast forwarding it. So eventually they get to the part with the ludicrous speed, and then you see it in like fast forward version, little Rick Moranis like, and like flying through the thing. And then he freaks out, and he's like, no, go past this part. In fact, never play this again. We just love that.
And just the look on his face is just like brilliant. It's like the way he's like processing it and being like so embarrassed.
And then they get to a part where they land on where they are right now in the movie. So they're looking at themselves like they're like, what the hell am I looking at? We're looking at now, sir. This is now in the movie. Now, what happened to then? We passed it. When? Just now. What happened to then? We passed it. Wait, like, how do we go back? Go back to then. We can't. When will then be now? Soon. It's brilliant. But yeah, that's my other favorite part. So then they realize upon watching that movie that they're in this desert planet. So now they found the planet, and
so they message President Scroob, and he's like, comb the desert, like try to find them on this planet. So then there's this whole scene where like you see the actual like the princess and Lone Star and everyone going through the desert, but then it shoots to like once the Spaceballs gets there to physically combing the desert with these giant combs. So then you see Dark Helmet and Colonel Sanders is like, do you think we're taking this too literally, sir? And he's like, he said comb the desert? We're combing it. And so then he has this like funny little like pith helmet with like the tiny little window with binoculars, and he's like looking at them combing the desert. So there's 3 groups. So the first 2 guys have like this big comb, and he's like, find anything? No. Second group guys like, find anything? Not yet, sir. Third group of guys, 2 black guys with an afro pick. So it's like a tiny comb with like 5 little tines or whatever you call those things. And the always says to them, "Find anything?" And the guy like opens his shield of his helmet. And he's like, "We ain't found shit." And like Mel Brooks is so interesting. Of the two movies, I guess I know about. So maybe a little bit about Blazing Saddles because I know there's a black sheriff in that, and then Robin Hood Men in Tights, a Chew, and then in this one, how he deals with race is like really kind of interesting because I think like Jewish people and black people like kind of are a little bit like, oh man, we've both been like really shit on a lot, and I feel like that they kind of start from the same place like comedy wise a lot, so I feel like they're almost like. Not contemporaries, but like can kind of dab in each other's kind of things, and it's not like inappropriate if you were just like white and or Gentile, if you will. So I think that's really funny how he just kind of like throws that stuff in without kind of whatever.
Yeah,
that is what it is.
But I do love that part. And when I was little, I had no idea what an Afro pick was, and I was always like, "Why is their comb so tiny?"
Too definitely,
and I
so you
didn't get it.
him.
But here's another question.
And once you do, it's like fucking hilarious.
Yeah, but here's another question. Why don't they spread the combs out more? They're like right next to each other. The desert's pretty big. I don't know. I think there could be a better plan there.
Comb the desert.
But yeah, great scene. Great scene.
So good. I just love saying that too.
We ain't found shit. Okay, so then my next favorite part is when they go to rescue Princess Vespa or do you want to do that one and I'll do the stunts?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. So they go to rescue Princess Vespa, and this is like a line I use actually like kind of a lot if I hear like a lower voiced woman,
or not, or just in
general.
to be like comment on somebody's. I feel like we use these lines in just
Not
normal
when they make
situations,
sense.
right? Which is the ticket.
So they get it to Spaceballs 1 to go visit Princess Vespa. So at this point they've gotten the code for the air shield. So like she's just like sitting in a jail cell. And so they break in. They're like, how are we going to know which like jail cell she's in? So all of a sudden they hear this voice, very, very low voice singing basically an old, what is a gospel tune from the 1800s apparently that goes, nobody knows the trouble I see. Nobody knows but Jesus. So then they're like, wow, like who's that? And then they're able to open this like the little window, and it's her singing it. And then Barf goes, huh, she's a bass. And it's just this observational.
Yeah, or no, it's to use like in an unexpected turn of events. So like if somebody's like, wow, that old lady's spry, you're like, she's a bass. I don't know.
It's just so funny.
It's a great one. So then shortly after that, they rescue her, and then they're running, and then the like classic sci-fi movie thing where like the gate thing, what's that called? The door? I don't know.
Yep.
It's closing, and they have to like jump through it. So they like do flips over it and land on that thing. So then the Spaceballs are like, we got them. So they're like, get up, and then they turn them around, and they're like all these like ugly men. Like who look really weird, and this is the part that Stephen Tobolowsky's in, and he's the commander in this part. And he's
Ned Ryerson.
Ned Ryerson's like, you idiots, you got their stunt doubles,
And he's like a funny accent
Yeah.
too. He's like some British.
and oh man, the Princess Vespa one is like a short guy with like long dark hair and a Hitler mustache, smoking a cigar.
And like the other ones are kind of funny because the Barf is like just like a same build as John Candy, as stunt doubles would be, but like totally different face. But then the Lone Star one is just like a slightly uglier version of Bill Pullman.
A shaggier Bill Pullman.
Which then we noticed was his actual stunt double in a later scene.
We think, but we should double check that. But yeah, we're pretty sure that it was. And it's funny because one of my favorite pastimes is looking for stunt doubles in movies and then cracking up about it.
Right.
I remember there's this amazing One Tree Hill episode where Lucas and Dan, Evil Dan, are like in the car, like drag racing this other car. And I like look and I'm like, wait a minute, these were stunt doubles. Like, it wasn't even like a stunt worthy scene.
Right.
And I paused it, and it's two actors in these awful wigs, and it was the funniest. And I wish I could have taken a screenshot of it, but I just love I love shit like that. I love covering that out. And I was watching the original Parent Trap this weekend, and in that movie, obviously Haley Mills was both twins, but they had to use a stand-in for a lot of the scenes, and they're pretty crafty with someone, like they put like a duffel bag in front of her face or whatever. Yeah. But there's a scene where they're fighting each other at the dance, and there's so many scenes where you just see that other girl's face, and you're like, who is that?
I don't know. It must
so
be how
weird
to film a movie like that. That must be
It's
exhausting.
like a Twilight Zone, though. Yeah. When you see the stunt double, you're like, what? That is not that person at all. Our favorite one, obviously, is Flashdance.
Oh, my God.
When she does the crazy legs thing, and it's clearly a man in a wig. So
it was
classic.
Actually Crazy Legs, if you remember. That was the guy's name.
I do remember. But it's just such a classic thing, and I love it so much. So that's why I just find that joke to be so funny. It's just really inspired filmmaking right there. Any other?
So probably the last one, I think, is the He Shot My Hair one. So I kind of am a little bit remiss to talk about this, just because I hope now that we're getting to a point where like women being badass and shooting guns is not really funny anymore. It's funny in the sense it's of the character, because I think that's what it is.
She was very like stuck up and didn't want to do anything that like ruined her looks and stuff like that.
Right. But so I just really like it because it is like a change for this character. So she does a really cool thing. But anyway, so she's like, they're getting into the Winnebago, and like the Spaceballs are all shooting after them with their guns. And Lone Star has to like figure out how to get into the Winnebago because it's locked or something like that. So he's like, here, take this. Like, you got to keep shooting while I like figure this out. So she like holds the gun up by her like two fingers. Is like, I can't touch this. I hate guns. And she's weird.
She's a weird Southern accent.
Maybe she's actually Southern, and that just like came out there.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
I hate guns. And then a ray bullet or whatever those thing is like gets by her hair and like singes it a little bit. And she goes, he shot my hair. And then she goes, son of a bitch. And then she like pumps the gun and it goes, pew, 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 and wastes all the guys. And it's amazing. And then after that, she kind of returns to, was that okay? And the guys are like, that was okay. That was pretty good. And then little Dot Matrix is like, that was pretty good for Rambo.
Yeah. It's a great scene. It's really like women power. Man, it's like a lot of all.
Pew, 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 pew.
So then my last favorite scene is when in the standoff between Lone Star and Dark Helmet, Dark Helmet says the classic Star Wars line. He goes, there's something you must know before like we begin. He's like, I am your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate.
What does that make us?
Absolutely nothing. It's so great.
I just want to throw in roommate.
Roommate. Not only roommate, but former roommate. Not present. So classic.
Oh, I also love the part where he's playing with the dolls and
Oh yeah. So
apparently this was like a totally improv part that was like not in the script, that Mel Brooks like thought of it and just described it to Rick Moranis, and he's like, sure, I'll do it. And he did it like totally improv. So he's like, has all these dolls of so he has a Princess Vespa doll, a Lone Star doll, a Barf doll, and a Dot Matrix doll. And he's like playing with them, acting out a scene, how he like kills Lone Star and Barf and all that. And then he's like making out with the princess doll. And so then Colonel Sanders like knocks on the door and just opens it. And then he just like grabs all the dolls and he's like, I thought I told you to knock next time, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, did you see anything? And he's like, no, sir, I did not see you playing with your dolls again. And it's just so funny because, again, like the look on his face is like, phew. And then like, wait a minute.
I just like the way that Rick Moranis, like to know that he improv that scene is great because it's so perfect of how like kids play with action figures or dolls. Like if you've ever seen a kid or remember even yourself playing with dolls, it's that very like, hi, what's your name? My name's Megan. Oh, cool. You look nice. Do you want to be friends? And then it's like, I'm going to kill you. You're dead. Like that kind of thing. It's just, it's amazing. So it's great. So I think those are all of my main favorite scenes. Of course, I'm sure there's a lot of favorite lines and stuff we didn't include that we're like, we'll probably kick ourselves later for missing.
Yeah, feel free to tweet them out. If we missed any.
I know you have a couple least favorite parts, maybe as in gross parts. Maybe just Pizza the Hut. Am I the only one that finds Pizza the Hut very gross?
So gross.
So
really ruins pizza for you.
And it was unfortunate that we started eating our nachos like at the beginning of this movie where like Pizza the Hut happens. So he's just like a bubble. Was this one of the puppets that George Lucas's team helped on? So it's just this mound of cheese and pepperoni and like olives and stuff. It's like pizza without the crust, it seems like. It's just very goopy. And so when he talks, he like bubbles and it's gross. And then there's his sidekick guy, Vinny. like a mafia
android.
Yeah. He at one point starts like eating Pizza the Hut, and then he's like, "You're delicious," but I hate the fact that like the Pizza the Hut gets all over his hat and like face. It's like all cheesy and
like
gross.
I feel like there was a card. Maybe it was like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or something that had like. Remember, like the turtles like loved pizza, but there was always disgusting looking pizza, like cartoon pizza, and it reminded me of that.
I didn't watch TMNT.
TMNT. Well, it's just like, or something. Someone else had pizza, and it was the most like disgusting looking pizza, and you're like, no one would want to eat that.
Yeah. It's an upsetting scene. Yeah. I also didn't love Dot Matrix when I was little. Yeah. I found her line. I feel like they gave her a really stupid line. Like they gave her the cheesiest lines of all, which is so strange because Joan Rivers is so hilarious and like dirty, like potty mouthed, and like I don't know why they wasted.
I mean, I agree to that now. I'm just not like
right. Ugh. I know it's weird,
but interesting that this will be. That'll be. Oh no. Oh. I'm thinking like, so remember in Look Who's Talking 2 when they do like the preview of it at the end of Look Who's Talking 1 when she has Kirstie Alley has her new baby and she can talk too, and originally they wanted Joan Rivers to voice it, so the little baby is voiced by Joan Rivers, but then when the movie comes out it's Roseanne. That just reminded me of that.
We gotta watch it.
Whoa,
we should watch that next. I love it so much.
So good.
Yes, so wait, I was going to say something. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, funny line I noticed in this is, so when they push the self-destruct button, when they're at like a minute, the voice, like the cool female voice that like comes over the thing is like, the ship will destruct in 1 minute. It will be your last chance to push the cancellation button. Or was it?
Cancellation button.
Yeah. And they all go like frantically to try to find it. And then they find it and they pull it open and there's a tag attached to it that says out of order. And Dark Helmet's like, out of order. He's like, fuck. He's like, even in the future, nothing works. Which I always think is something I always point out in all of these sci-fi movies. Like, something always fucking goes wrong. Like, there's always a malfunction or, like, the doors jam. Something's always jammed. Yeah. Which is, again, funny. Call back to the jam scene. But that is funny how, like, it's supposed to be have this, like, advanced technology in the future, but then these things are still happening. So, just, I like that little touch very much.
Very clever. What else? Oh, do you want to talk about his sick outfit at the end?
So Lone Star opens the fortune cookie and they find out that he's a prince. So he's like, Yogurt's like, if you hurry, you can make it to the wedding and get yourself a princess. So then she decides she doesn't really want to marry Prince Valium, and then the door is like bursts open in the back, and it's Lone Star
all cleaned up, and the whole movie has like sort of like a bomber jacket on, like a captain's sort of like bomber jacket, pants of some sort, I forget the color, kind of a 5 o'clock shadow, floppy hair, right? Yeah. So he shows up in like again, tightest white pants you've ever seen, off-white top with these like those epaulettes. I think that's what it looks
like a marching band.
But it's like a tight jacket.
Who's the person in the marching band who like holds the stick and is like
the major, drum major?
Yeah,
something?
He looks like that. He looks insane. And Sweetie, you said a funny line when we were watching it. You're like, what, did he stop at the Prince store on the way in?
It looks like what?
Well, it's
How
true.
did they have time?
Yeah, they did not have time to get a snazzy Prince outfit. Very suspicious.
I mean, I know they had the liquid Schwartz for like their emergency fuel, but like,
I don't think it included outfits.
It just looked like really weird on him, and I was just that whole part is like so cheesy. I'm like,
I know,
skin crawl.
I know,
like it doesn't fit.
Get it up.
No, it's like too romantic, and you're like, it's not, because in the whole romance part of it, they just keep like like missing each other. There's all these weird sort of like, oh, we're supposed to hate each other, and like, but I really am like
That's
falling
true.
for you and stuff like that. And then it kind of like, ooh, sorry, whoa, I don't know who I was apologizing to. That was weird. To the glasses.
I've done that before. I've like stubbed my foot. I like stubbed my foot on the door one time, and I was like, "Oh, sorry."
We are a culture of sorries.
I know. We need to stop
to stop it.
apologizing, ladies. Stop
Ladies,
apologizing
stop
right now.
It's a woman thing. Anyway, so yeah, I just found that like so funny and like, like sweet Bill Pullman. And do we have to play our game again? Bill Pullman or Bill Paxton?
Oh boy.
Ready?
Yes.
Spaceballs.
Bill Pullman.
Twister.
Bill Paxton.
While you're sleeping.
Bill Pullman.
Independence Day.
Bill Pullman.
A League of Their Own.
Bill Pullman.
Weird Science.
I don't know. Bill Paxton.
Yes.
All right.
100%.
Oh, I forgot to bring up my other favorite scene. So the scene, there's this random scene at the space diner after they bring Princess Vespa back, and then Lone Star turns down the 1 million space bucks. They don't really need it anymore because Pizza the Hut is dead. He ate himself to death when he was trapped in his limo. I know, because it's like a love thing. I don't know.
Barf.
Well, is that what
not
he
the
does
Mog.
in Star Wars?
Oh.
Doesn't he like turn down the money? And that's why Jabba the Hutt comes after him in the end and
What money was
freezes
he getting
him.
from though?
There was a reward
For
winning.
no.
I don't know. Maybe I'm confusing
Yeah.
I think he just like expected to get paid for bringing the princess back safely home. I think that's what the even though her home planet was destroyed. But anyway, so
No, because doesn't she say, "Oh, I knew you wouldn't take the money and run," or something?
are you talking about Vespa or Leia?
Leia says that to him once
He comes back
He
to
comes
save
back.
them to like help them blow up the Death Star.
Yeah, but then when they see each other
But
again,
he
when
still
they
got the money.
I don't know.
We don't know.
We'll have to write to Han
Um,
Solo. Dear Han Solo, did you take the money? Love the sweeties.
Anyway, so Lone Star and Barf are like, all right, we're out of here. So they stop at this space diner, and they go and they're like, what's ready? And she says, the soup or the special,
The space
which
soup or the space
is questionable because there's a whole bunch of burger patties right behind her that are clearly ready because they're like burnt. But whatever. So they're like, well, so they take one soup and one special. And then to the left of them is a pseudo crew from the movie Alien, including the actual John Hurt who plays this character in
Are the
Alien.
other characters?
No, the other characters are not.
Or lookalikes.
They're lookalike. There's the woman does look suspiciously like Sigourney Weaver. It's very crazy, but like they're wearing the same things that the other characters are wearing, like that blue bandana that one guy has. So so it starts just like an Alien, where they're telling like a funny joke over a meal, and then Kane, who is played by John Hurt, like starts coughing. He's like, and they're like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And he like freaks out, and then like lies down on the table, and you see like something, and then the chest burster bursts out of his chest. So in Spaceballs, it like comes out and it's already like this like scary fully formed alien, and then he like lands on the counter and then he puts on this teeny tiny little hat and it has this little cane and he starts singing that song, hello my honey, hello my darling, hello my ragtime gal, do, 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 do. And he does the whole dance down the thing and everybody's freaking out, and then he goes out this little tiny door and then that's it.
Yeah. So in actual Aliens, it's not a fully formed alien that comes out of his
No, it
his
is, but
stomach?
it's not like dancing. And
Where does
like,
it go?
It runs away, and then they're like, "Oh fuck, that was messed up," and then it turns into the giant
big
xenomorph.
What happens to the guy? He dies.
Yeah. I mean, he burst out of his chest, so he did. His blood, like, it's a cool scene because his blood like sprays over everybody, and everybody's like, "Ah!" It's a great scene. But yeah, it made me seek out Alien, and I already kind of had a fascination with horror, so
see that
so
now.
that's why. But it's a really good movie. It's kind of like Jaws in space, or it's like a horror movie in space. Some people are like, it's not really a horror movie, it's a sci-fi movie. But I'm like, no, fuck you, it's a horror movie.
No, I was like, I listened to a podcast and it was like about Ridley Scott, but just in general about like that franchise. Oh, when the new one was coming out, which are like the prequels now, which are not getting like as very good.
Yeah.
Feedback.
But no, yeah, Alien's amazing. It's
But,
so
yeah, I
good,
really
so
wanna
good,
see
so
that.
good.
Who doesn't love Sigourney?
I know. She's
My
such
gal.
she's such a badass. And the best part, spoiler, the cat lives. It's so great. Anyways, that's my other favorite part. Love that part. I just love that. Hello, my honey. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime gal. It's so random.
It's like tiny mini little boater.
I love the little boater. It's so cute. It's great. But yeah, good scene. Good tray.
Good try.
Anything else? I feel like this is like a case like, so we have a book club. And if somebody picks like a good book or like just a funny book, like we did Bossy Pants one time, we didn't have a lot to say about it because it was just us being like, I like this scene, and then talking about it.
I have one more trivia, which is a really good one. And I feel like I haven't done trivia a lot, as we did sort of in our beginning episodes. It was sort of like a not a milestone or something we always did. A segment we always did. Me being the history buff, I love my history. I love my trivia. Jeopardy, what? September 28th, watch it. So in this case, the original working title for this was Planet Morons. But then there was another like British show that was coming out that had like sort of a similar Planet Morons and something. So Mel Brooks was like, we got to fix this. We can't name it this. So like, let's name it Space something. And he was going through like with the writers or whatever. And they just started naming like stuff to go with every letter of the alphabet, right? So like space, apple, space, like buttons. I don't know. So they just like went through the alphabet. And then they're going along, and Mel Brooks spills his drink and yells out, balls. And then the guy's like, Spaceballs. That's it.
It's funny. And their helmets are like little balls.
Oh, yeah. And that what makes that great about that's part of the story so great is that when Mel Brooks spills something, he says balls. That's what I say.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize he said. Wait, he says that in the movie or just like
in
real life? Oh,
in real life.
Yeah.
In his real life, like you
Maybe
spill
that's
something,
where
you're
we
like,
got
balls.
it from. Maybe it's just like it happened.
I hope so.
How do you feel about Spaceballs? The song. We're the Spaceballs.
Good.
So
pretty good.
I mean, just
Who sings it?
The Spinners. I looked up the lyrics, and I was gonna sing them, but I forgot.
What we got is what you need, and what you need is all you got. We're the Spaceballs.
Wow. All we do is dirty deeds, actually, is that. But the beginning is like, if you're living in a bubble and you haven't got a care. I'm not doing the right tempo. This isn't right. Well, you're going to be in trouble because we're going to steal your air. Because what you got is what we need, and all we do is dirty deeds.
Damn. So close.
We're the Spaceballs.
Yeah, pretty cool. It reminded me a little bit of like the Ghostbusters song, which maybe actually I think they were trying to parody.
And they play that song when they're evacuating the ship, and like it's like the big joke. There's a big joke at the beginning of the film. The first joke, if you will, is that it gives you like a long shot of the Spaceballs 1, and it's so long that it literally stretches on for at least like 2 solid minutes of just watching the ship go by. So it's a giant ship, and so there's all these elements that are. When they evacuated all these like other things, there's all these clowns. There's a bear.
There's like a lot of clown
lady.
circusy
Seems
stuff.
like a lot of circus things.
Yeah,
so I feel like most of the ship.
They
is
really
circus.
leaned heavy on the circus.
Yeah,
side.
most of the ship is circus.
What's going on in the city?
There's like the kettle drummer. It's just it's good. So they
With
play that song.
A helmet, which I love how he has like a
he has a
Spaceballs
helmet. Dun 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 dun. Pretty great. Yeah. But I always remember that scene. Classic with
it
the
does
with
make
the
me
bear.
want to watch like a lot of these old like
Yeah.
Like I was trying to remember the plot of Planet of the Apes, and I'm like, wait a minute. So Planet of the Apes is, so the planet is now,
I believe
taken over by
they are
apes.
I believe it begins. They're astronauts,
and
like
and
in
they
present
come
day
back.
or like the 50s
Yeah,
or whatever.
so they had like traveled
And
through
no, they
time,
don't come
right?
back. They thought they landed on a different planet that was overrun by apes.
So wasn't it Earth like in the future?
Right, but which you don't find out until the end, until you see the Statue of Liberty in the sand.
Yes.
So the funny part of this is that when I was little, I was always so put off by the fact that the Mega Maid looked like the Statue of Liberty. I was like, why does she have a weird crown?
Right.
And then you get why she does at the end when they crash. The Prince Groob, Dark Helmet, and Colonel Sanders are in the head, so they land on the beach. And then that's why it looks like that, because it's supposed to be like the Statue of Liberty part in Planet of the Apes. But yeah, that's that one. Some other references, there's a couple Wizard of Oz references. There's they use the Lawrence of Arabia song when they're like going through the desert, which neither one of us have seen. which I probably will never see because it just doesn't appeal to me.
I really want to see it. I mean, I love Peter O'Toole.
I know
and it's a
I
cool story.
should, but what's the story?
So the story is about the real Wait, which one was it? Not D.H. T.E. Lawrence. So it was like a British poet or writer, and it was when the British, and I forget what country this is, Egypt maybe, and there was like a war there, and he like fought in the war. I'm like totally messing this up. Okay, I've never seen Lawrence of Arabia, but it is about T.E. Lawrence, and it's beautiful Peter O'Toole with his beautiful blue eyes. And it's supposedly a classic.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure it is, but I have a hard time watching movies I've never seen before.
Yeah.
I prefer, I'll be like, what movie should I watch? And it's all these, Oscar picks. And then I'm like, ooh, Spaceballs.
Well, as I said to you before, Sundays are always really good for that, right? Because you're sitting on the couch, not doing anything. It's a good time for long movie Sundays. And this was the one time that we watched Amadeus, that brilliant Sunday. It was fucking raining. I was probably hungover.
But we've seen Amadeus before, so it wasn't.
We had?
Oh, yeah.
I hadn't.
I've seen it a bunch of times.
I hadn't seen it.
What? Yes,
No.
you have.
Maybe clips of it. But
Okay.
So that was the first time I saw it. And that's like a 3-hour plus
That's the
movie.
only reason I watched it, because I'd seen it.
Oh, okay. And so we sat and we watched Amadeus on a Sunday. So I'm like, maybe we should have a Lawrence of Arabia Sunday.
But we're never together on Sunday. You're always
We'll have to
hungover.
make it happen.
You're always hungover or something.
I'm not.
We're
I
at the
rarely am
beach.
hungover anymore. Thank you very much.
We're at the beach.
My party days are over.
You're right, because nobody can bring you Gatorade from the weird convenience store down the street. Yeah, that's right. Any other main references? I forget now. I had the list and then I got rid of it. It said 2001: A Space Odyssey. I feel like the only thing they reference is that they say 2001. Oh, her space Mercedes is a 2001.
Oh my God, Alec Guinness is in Lawrence of Arabia.
Yes, and then that was the other little nod. You know what? A night.
Omar Sharif. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, good times.
Yeah, I want to see that. Damn.
We gotta watch it. Put it on the list, Sweetie Club. Just kidding.
Available nowhere, free right now.
What?
$2.99 everywhere.
That's like everything. So I swear to God, this Spaceballs was definitely on HBO Go yesterday, and now it's not there anymore. I think that Jesus or God is look out, the sweeties want to do this movie on the Large Marge Zenna's podcast, and then they're like, take it down, take that shit down, and then we have to buy it. It's it's really fucked up.
They just want to
Jesus, whatever.
Jesus.
Anyway, so I hope, Marcus, you've enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we've done it justice, because I just feel like you can only highlight the best things so much. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. I don't have any funny things to say about it because the whole movie's so funny that it's just
it's
funny
just so
on top
funny.
of funny.
And if you guys have a favorite scene, we forgot to cover it, fucking let us know. What were your early beginnings of watching this movie? Did you watch the parody before you watched the actual Star Wars like us? If you're
Tell
our
us
age,
more.
probably so.
Tell us more. Tell us
and
more.
if you have any, recommendations on other Mel Brooks films, which I think we mentioned all of them, but we gotta go back and see those. Probably not on the podcast because not touched our lives, but we will definitely be covering Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Oh yes, for sure.
Jam that one.
Love that movie. Yeah. So to do that, please come and find us on Twitter at the Sweetie Club or on Instagram at Large Marge Sent Us. We'll be there and we will talk to you unless you're weird. And
we'll
or
still
a
talk to you.
stalker. I'll probably still talk to you because I feel bad. But yeah, thanks. So thank you as always for listening. We love you.
Love you.
Bye.